The Pentagon doublespeak illuminates the obvious fear. A proxy war turns into a real war. Journalist Michael Tracy says that's exactly where we are heading. In his tweet, it would appear that certain officials in the Biden administration really want to drop the pretense and just openly declare war on Russia. He's with us now. Boy, I haven't heard that from anybody, that they want to have a war with Russia. Who are you pointing to?
Well, that was in reaction to the New York Times report yesterday, where they were quoting so-called senior officials confirming that American intelligence was, quote, crucial in the sinking of that flagship Russian warship. And if those senior officials are going out of their way to leak and effectively brag about this operational activity on the part of the U.S. to the New York Times, that indicates that they're willing and eager to have it publicized that the U.S. is more and more intimately involved in the nitty-gritty of this war. And
so you're thinking that there's officials leaking this to try to draw the U.S. even more into the war, hence where you're saying they want to drop the pretense?
Well, I can't get into their head. I mean, it's only anonymous officials being quoted.
Well,
right? But they must have some reason.
It feels like you're in their head when you say it would appear that certain officials in the Biden administration really want to drop the pretense and just openly declare war. You're reading into them leaking, right?
Well, what would be the motivation for them to leak? They must want it to be publicized, right? That the U.S. is engaging in these activities, effectively commanding combat operations that lead to, as you've reported, maybe as many as hundreds of Russian sailors. So what would be the purpose behind that leak, if not to publicize it? And if you're publicizing such extreme actions undertaken by the U.S. in terms of at least the severity of the warfare it's willing to engage in, then that suggests that there are some officials within the Biden administration who are very gung-ho about wanting to kind of drop the pretense that this is just about providing defensive aid and helping an ally and so on, and go a step further and just kind of admit that we're in open war with Russia. Seth Moulton, the Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, said this week that the U.S. is fundamentally at war with Russia, not just supporting Ukrainians.
Right. No,
I
know. We've heard the same
there, and there. Yeah.
Right. We've heard the same thing in done it. I mean, I'm interested sort of in your line of thought of this. U.S. politicians have no real answer when asked why they're so invested militarily, financially, and ideologically in Ukraine. They just all spout the same litany of cliches: freedom, democracy, et cetera. They're highly passionate about a subject they've barely even given any thought to. I've interviewed a lot of congressmen. They have a lot of thoughts, and it seems pretty sincerely held that we stop Russia now because we've learned that allowing dictators to invade foreign countries doesn't end up well for America.
Right. The extent of their knowledge and the reason why they're so passionate about this subject is because they have like a Facebook meme version of history in their minds about what happened in the late 1930s. And so that makes them really intent on ensuring that Hitler 2.0 is not allowed to run rampant in Eastern Europe. I mean, that's pretty much the extent of their knowledge of it.
Every congressman,
from what I see.
Most of the congressmen I've talked to
have a they almost always speak in terms of platitudes and cliches, like they'll invoke freedom and democracy, and they'll basically just borrow from George W. Bush's freedom agenda in the early 2000s.
Hold on, Michael. How are those platitudes and cliches, number one? Number two, I've talked to a lot of congressmen who are educated at West Point, people who have master's degrees in history, and you say that's a meme version of World War II? Well,
I'll give you an example. Ben Cardin, who's a senator from Maryland, took part in an online forum with the Atlantic Council, which is this very pro-NATO, basically an offshoot of NATO, and is very antagonistic historically toward Russia. And his bottom line on this subject, in terms of why the U.S. was so militarily, ideologically, financially invested in the battlefield victory of Ukraine, is that it really boils down to just a battle of good versus evil. He actually used that quote. And that really is the intellectual heights that a lot of people in Congress achieve when they're talking about this subject, which lends one to believe that they really haven't given it much thought when they're so
you're fundamentally wrong.
Platitudes and cliches.
No, hold on, Michael. People can distill things down to very simple good and bad, right and wrong after an incredibly nuanced. Hold on, Michael. I'm going to ask the question now. After an incredibly nuanced evaluation of it, you think about your tweet. Hopefully, this is obvious, but a central reason why their public explanations are so incoherent, they always have to invent high-minded sounding ways to rationalize the core task of maintaining, expanding U.S. hegemony. I'll ask you this. Why is that a bad thing? Since 1945, the world has been at peace. America has been either one of or the sole superpower. From 1980 on, we were the only superpower, and the world was a safer place for 3 decades.
Well, I wasn't necessarily asserting that it was a bad thing per se. I was just giving an explanation as to why these public rationales for the U.S. military effort now that's escalating by the day in Ukraine always kind of reduce into this babble of incoherence and cliche and platitude, because really it's all about masking a fundamental desire on the part of U.S. officials, congressmen, senators, whoever, to maintain and preserve U.S. hegemony. I mean, I came of age politically during the George W. Bush years, when all we heard from the Bush administration constantly were these indications of high-minded concepts like freedom and democracy to justify the invasion of Iraq. And now this is the latest iteration of that with just as much brain
I think
power
if you want to go more than that, I think you'd probably knock George W. Bush on the idea of nation building, which didn't work out so well in Iraq or in Afghanistan.
Well, the U.S. engages in a ton of nation building in Ukraine. We basically subsidize its military, and nobody has a problem with it anymore because consensus has overtaken any debate or dissension on this topic on a bipartisan basis.
Well, except for on this program, where you're always more than welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.